On 7th October 2023, the citizens of Israel were woken up violently with the sounds of sirens at 6:30 a.m. local time. Little did they know that they were under attack on all fronts: air, land, and sea.
Palestinian militants would steam into Israel by air, land, and sea, killing civilians, taking hostages, and razing the neighborhoods that they attacked.
The terrorist organization, named Hamas, are militant Palestinian Sunni Islamic fundamentalist group who managed to surprise everyone by wreaking havoc on the only Jewish state in the world. One of the most feared and elite intelligence and special operation country, Israel, were left reeling. And Operation Al-Aqsa flood was well and truly underway. More than 5,000 missiles were fired by Hamas from the Gaza Strip, and the death toll had reached from over 300 and more than 1,600 people injured over the first few hours of the mayhem. 6 days later, and with no end in sight, we have to ask ourselves, why are these countries at odds again? What's happened so far? And where do we go from here? Israel-Palestine war. Let's talk about it. So Ashwal, please enlighten us. What's been going on so far in the Israel and Palestinian war?
So let's catch up with what's been going on since day one. So day one was October 7th. It was a Saturday. It was 6:30 a.m. when the Hamas terrorist organization fired about 5,000 missiles towards the southern and central cities of Israel. So these 5,000, Hamas claims it as 5,000 missiles, but then this number is questionable.
It's disputable, right?
Yes.
Like Israel military force has 2,200 and Wall Street Journal has 3,500.
Yes.
So it's been disputable, but yeah, anyways.
But no matter the case, it's still a huge number of missiles fired in cities including Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. It was a surprise attack. No one saw it coming. And then the Hamas attacked from all fronts: land, sea, and air. So the armed militants, many on motorcycles, stormed the blockaded areas of Gaza, and then they killed the Jewish settlers in Gaza Strip. So shortly after the attack, Mohammed Deif, the commander-in-chief of the Hamas military arm Al-Aqsa brigades, he released a statement claiming his responsibility for the war.
We announced the start of the Operation Al-Aqsa flood, and we announced the first strikes of this operation targeted enemy position, an airport and military fortification. During the first 20 minutes, we sent over 5,000 missiles.
So basically, he says in his statement, the Zionist colonial occupation occupied our Palestine homeland and displaced our people. By Zionist, he means the Jewish people who follow Zionism. Right, destroyed our towns, villages, committed hundreds of massacres by violating the international norms and laws of human rights violation and all that. So that is his claim.
So this is in the previous year, right? Like leading up to the attack and even before.
Yes.
So they are claiming that the Israelis were attacking and killing some of the Palestinian people, right?
Yes,
so
also displacing them. So that is his claim. So over the years, they have been done wrong, basically.
Yeah.
That is his claim. So about 10:30 a.m. local time, just few hours in the attack, Israeli jet fighters now start a retaliatory strikes in Gaza. And about an hour later, the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, comes out and gives his first statement and then says Israel is at war.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה, לא במבצע, לא בסבבים, במלחמה. הבוקר חמאס פתח במתקפת פתע רצחני נגד מדינת ישראל ונגד אזרחיה. אנחנו בתוך זה משעות הבוקר המוקדמות. כינסתי את ראשי מערכת הביטחון, הנחיתי קודם כל לטהר את היישובים מהמחבלים שחדרו פנימה. הפעולה הזאת מתבצעת בשעות הללו. במקביל הוריתי לבצע גיוס מילואים נרחב ולהשיב מלחמה שערה בעוצמה ובהיקף שהאויב לא הכיר. האויב ישלם מחיר שהוא לא ידע מותו. אני קורא בינתיים לכל אזרחי ישראל להישמע בקפדנות להנחיות הצבא, להנחיות פיקוד העורף. אנחנו במלחמה ואנחנו ננצח בה.
So later that day, US President Joe Biden also stands with Israel, shows his support, unprecedented support to Israel with some mumbled words.
Today, the people of Israel are under attack, orchestrated by a terrorist organization, Hamas. In this moment of tragedy, I want to say to them and to the world and to terrorists everywhere that the United States stands with Israel. we will not ever fail to have their back.
Yes. So the Israeli government announces that Hamas has at least taken about 100 Israeli civilians captive. So this goes on, and day 2, the reports come out that Israeli health officials announced that about 700 people are already dead and more than 2,100 injured in Israel. But in Palestine, health authorities said that there were about 300 dead in Palestine and about 2,200 injured. So at least 11 Americans have been confirmed dead in Israel by day 3, and then about 2 French citizens, about 10 Nepalese among them were confirmed dead. And then there are many more foreign citizens who must have been fatally killed in this incident, but then these are some of them. So Hamas says that they will start killing these hostages and filming these executions unless Israel stop these unwarned bombings, unwarned airstrikes. So the Israel Defense Forces in retaliation calls up to about 300,000 reserves, the first and the quickest army recruitment in Israel's history.
I think this is after the Yom Kippur War?
Yes, which was about in 1960s, right?
I think it's been 50 years, so I think 73.
Exactly. No, 73, okay. Yeah. So it was the quickest call-up since 50 years, and also the biggest attack Israel has seen, or Palestine has seen, in 50 years exactly.
By the way, one of the reasons Israel is going through the airstrikes is because Benjamin Netanyahu, the PM of Israel, he doesn't like to put civilian military life at risk, right?
Yeah.
So he preferred doing the aerial strike and bombing and all that rather than going into Gaza, right? And the other reason being Gaza is very densely populated. It's a very small strip of land, I think twice the size of Washington, D.C. or something.
It's about 25 miles in diameter.
Yeah. So it's a very small strip of land, and it's highly, like, over 2.1 million is the population.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So it's a very densely packed urban area.
So I guess his thinking is maybe that more damage can be done.
Yeah.
Right.
So people hiding traps, right, in the buildings and all that and all. So that could lead to a lot of military people from Israel being dead.
Yeah. So he could basically get away with some casualties. If you just send in some land troops, right, and then you just aerial bombardment.
It's a much easier option.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons. Yeah.
So by now, slowly Israel starts. This just keeps escalating. There's no sign of slowing down. Israel now blocks all the medical and food supplies to Gaza. Now they keep on continuing with their airstrikes to Gaza. Now most of the countries have evacuated their citizens, those that are left, by the way. So by then, France, Spain, Poland, Russia, all these countries, and including Nepal, has recently done that. So they've already evacuated the citizens and all that. Now, this is interesting. Now, this is another twist to the conflict. Hezbollah, a Lebanese organization, attacks Israel. Now, this also shows the Lebanon's support to Palestine, including other countries. So now let's get into that. Powerhouses like US, UK, now Australia, France, Norway, Austria, Germany, India, Canada, Poland, and Spain are many of the few countries who are in support with Israel. Basically, and even the European Union, most of these countries have voiced their support to Israel, right, to self-defense. So, but then the countries like Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and the Arab League, and even Jordan have showcased varying degrees of support to Palestine. So basically, if you just look at it from an eagle's eye, it's Arabs versus the world, I guess.
More like a religious blockade, right?
Yes.
Where it's Islamist versus the other side, and the other side includes Christians and Jewish people, right? So it looks like a religious blockade might be forming. And also, to put a little bit of context, Hezbollah is not the viral sensation that you all guys know about. This is not this is a group of Sunni. Give me a second. Hezbollah are like a Lebanese Sahi Islamist political party, right? And a military group.
Okay.
So that means that these are not only, this is not like, so for example, when we talk about Hamas, Hamas is recognized as a terrorist organization all over, right? But Hezbollah has a little bit of more legitimacy in terms because it is also a political party, right? And then the other thing is, why is the Lebanese government because it is believed that Lebanon and Israel has a better relationship than previously, right?
Okay.
So why is the Lebanese government not stepping in? And that's the reason why, right? Because Hezbollah is a political party as well. So they have a huge chunk of control over the Lebanese political stances and all that.
Okay.
Right, so that is why they've become such a prominent part in this whole situation, and people cannot outright blame Lebanon, right? Like they cannot outright blame Palestinians,
Yes.
but they're blaming these groups of Hezbollah or Hamas.
You're talking about that even Israel has stated that this is not a war against Palestine. This is a war against the Hamas terrorist organization.
So, and Hezbollah has been active in Lebanon since 1975. So it's not like they're just a simple group or something like that. They've been there in the Lebanese politics for ages.
So they must have major and big influence on the Lebanon as a whole country.
Yeah.
So and it's on as of now. This is the day 6 as we are recording right now. This is the 6th day of war ongoing. Things are escalating, no signs of slowing down, and other countries like Saudi Arabia and also have come up forward and said that any countries that try to aid Israel, like United States or something, will have to face some action. So this is really getting heated up, and I wonder where this goes. Blockades are ongoing. The lack of blockades, as in the medical and the food supplies, people suffering.
Completely stopped to the Gaza Strip.
Yes.
And these are innocent people. A lot of people, they are just casualties of the war. And they do not have any place to skip to or go to.
Yeah.
Now they are trying evacuation relief plans from all these Arabic nations around them. But such a sad moment for people on either side of the aisle,
Yeah.
Casualties just because.
Yeah, I think throughout history, when there is war, the civilians, innocent civilians, they suffer for no reason. And then that's just the nature of the war. And another power play from US was that they sent the biggest warship to Israel. And that just shows, the US kind of flexing over, showing the support. And UK also has given their outright support in the parliament, but then people did not like that. There was I saw this video where there was some building where there's Israel's flag going over, and then they just the fans are the civilians are not happy with the decision because they feel that Palestinians have been oppressed or something. They have their point of views, but then not everyone is outright supporting a country.
And this is a very weird state. I used to remember when I was growing up, I used to hear all these Israel-Palestine stuff, and I would never willingly step into those conversations because there was so much thing that was there, right? It was so heavy. So I always kind of stepped out of it. But now, when we did the research and we found out, this is not just something that started today. This is this has a history that precedes over almost 4,000 years.
Yeah.
Which is massive times. And there's been so many things that's happened over all those 4,000 years that, it feels like it's impossible to find a solution to this and all.
The many people think that the conflict is just ongoing for about 70, 80 years. But the build-up has been so crucial so that everything counts. So if you just trace it back, then it goes back to about 3,000 to 4,000 years, and then all those biblical times and all that. So
Moses.
Yes. We do plan to get into that, but just not in this. We just wanted to dedicate an entire video to just the history and the build up to this conflict and what it's actually about, and quite interesting stuff.
And I think we'll cover it next week. So for the next week's content. So stay tuned in for that as well.
So let's death toll.
Yeah.
By now, it's been thousands on both sides. And by now, the estimated death toll is obviously it's surging up. But the estimated death toll is about 17 to 1,800 dead in Israel and about 15, 12, I guess. I don't know. These are just skewed numbers, I guess. But then we never know the real numbers. And then many thousands injured, and it's just sad.
So let's get into some of the discussion points then. So what do you think then, Ashwa? Where do we go from here? Do you think the conflict is going to be resolved quickly? Or is this a step towards a completely different direction in the history of humankind?
Because, the way it looks to me is that it's just going to escalate, because I don't think there's I think they are beyond the point of fixing things and settling for, divided land or something, even though that is, the most sensible thing to do. But then I think they are beyond that point. And then with all these countries showing their supports and all that now, just slowly starting to maybe feel like an outright war ongoing. There's 2 wars ongoing right now on major scales. Russia's Ukraine still going on, and this Israel-Palestine now going on. But I don't see a good ending to this.
So the question then again comes, right, like that. In the past, okay, so however long, what's his name, the president of US?
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. So however long Joe Biden's been in power, and the last couple of years of Trump's administration, the noise of America sliding down as the major world power, like, escalated, right? Like, and then things started, like, all over the world, people were questioning whether America is still as strong as it used to be before, right? So, and now that, like, the voices become so loud, one, and then on the flip side, we see that 2 globally involved wars, right? That is, it's not just Russia versus Ukraine, there's NATO supporting Ukraine, right? And then global shortages of foods and, like, oil's price rising and all that. That's one, right? Now again, in the Middle Eastern like part of the world, there's another war brewing, right? And again, America and all these allies and all the America's allies and all of them supporting Israel. But then, of course, given the religious context, all the Islamic states are coming, maybe not outright saying that they're with Palestine, but they're saying that, like, we have to support them.
Yes.
Right? So, like, does this show that America is, like, genuinely weakening, or the rest of the world is catching up and they want a different way of the world being governed? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's true, from both sides. Maybe America is weakening, and then the other sides are rising up as well. Hence the rise in BRICS and the attention that the BRICS is getting, or, like, the trade networks that are being connected to, like, disconnected with the West and, be more focused to the Europe and Asia. And also talking about the global shortages of all these inflation and all these economic crises and all these price hikes and all that. I think this will be another just stepping stone to more of these problems, because now this whole Middle East, I was kind of surprised when Saudi Arabia came up with that statement.
The thing is, Saudi Arabia did not take this harsh of a statement early on. For Saudi Arabia, so there is this context, right? Like, so what happened is, when Benjamin Netanyahu, who is on his 16th year of running as a PM, not continuously, this is his 5th election, like, this is the 5th time he's been elected, right? So when he was in his campaign, he started to realize that there is no way that Israel and Hamas can come to terms.
Yeah.
Right? Because Gaza Strip is completely run by Hamas, whereas the West Bank, it's like Palestinian government, and Israel run the middle part of it. On the north is all Palestine, and on the south.
So it's sort of divided.
Yeah, so it's divided into 3 parts, and then, like, they have found out a way to, like, come to terms with living with each other, right? But once Benjamin Netanyahu found out that, like, there's no way they could negotiate with Hamas, what he started doing, and this was very strategical on his end, and he's releasing a book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. So very apt name for the book as well, and I think we'll get a lot more context on all of this. But what he started doing was he started making relationship with Jordan. He started making relationship with Iraq, Syria, and then even Egypt and Saudi Arabia, right? Saudi Arabia's relationship terms in terms of, what do we say, economy was maybe months, right? Like, just a month, couple of months left for this agreement to be signed. And once that would have been signed, they would have been able to do all this different business, even with the UAE and all that. So we can see that Israel was making friends and not enemies everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? And Palestine was being lost in the conversation, right? Because Israel is a massive economic state. And nowadays in the world, especially the globalized world, everyone is looking to bolster the economy one way or the other. So the Palestinian and Israeli history was being lost in translation.
Especially from the Palestinian point of view, because everyone is, like, forgetting their cause and just their allies as well, just, doing agreements for their financial benefit and all that.
So this, like, almost, Israel was almost on the brink of sorting the whole situation out and being recognized as a proper state. But then given the war, and then we haven't even mentioned Iraq's involvement in the war, and then the $6 billion relief that the Iraqi government got from US for release of 3 prisoners that Iraqi had.
Yeah.
Right? And a month later, and an assault. Right? So, I don't know where this goes, but it's such a convoluted thing, and now like everything has taken a step back in the Middle Eastern front. All the friendship and economical relations that Israel had established gone down the trash. The Israel-Palestine issue once again in the forefront of everything, and all the economical things and all that and all in the backseat.
So I mean, this could go anywhere. This could maybe lead to very bad situation. We don't want that obviously to happen, but then it just seems that way. And then now talking about the surprise attack. Now we all know, I think most of us, or we at least know about Mossad, the most very feared and very intelligence agency. They have spies everywhere, eyes everywhere, and all that. But they were completely shocked. I don't know.
Taken by surprise.
Taken by surprise, exactly.
Yeah.
And when Hamas attacked, and now everyone is questioning the intelligence capabilities of Mossad. Maybe they're just not, or maybe are not now as strong as everyone thought they are.
That's the one narrative. The other more harsher narrative that's coming out is, and this is a tinfoil hat conspiracy moment, of whether they knew and they didn't do anything, so that there was an ulterior motive to be fulfilled. So that's why Mossad and Israel as a whole stayed quiet, let the attack go through, and then something else. We don't know for sure, right? We can never be certain. But these are the 2 narratives out there. By the way, just for some context, in 2022, Israel spent $23.4 billion in defense sector, right? Which is total of 1% of the global defense spending.
Okay.
Which is a massive amount for such a small state. Yeah. That is also a state that has not been recognized and is in war constantly. So we can understand some of these billions because there's war constantly in and around surrounding Israel. But still, 23.4 billion is I think 5th or 6th in the budget chart of the world, right? Which is insane. And Israel spends, which is 4.5% of the total budget of the country. So this is very, very insane. By the way, just for a little bit more context, can you guess how much United States spends?
And I know for a fact that United States is the biggest spender on military defense and all that. So it's got to be somewhere in hundreds of billions, right?
So it's $877 billion just on defense sector from the United States, right? Which is 39% of the total global output in terms of defense sector.
You see the best equipments, war equipments. Where are they? In the United States.
So, it's a very touchy subject. But how were they? And there are claims from Egypt. And now Israel has vehemently denied these claims. Egypt claims that they had informed Israel and the government and all the defense sector that Hamas had replicated the town of Jerusalem, and Tel Aviv and all that in their land, right? And then they were practicing going in a guerrilla warfare kind of style for a year before the attack took place, And Egypt says that it had informed Israel about this, right? But somehow Israel was caught off guard. 7,000 people in the employment of Mossad.
And then,
And CIA trained. CIA trains Mossad, not just that. CIA thinks Mossad is equal to them. So they exchange information on a very regular basis. Right? And somehow Mossad was caught off guard.
It just doesn't sit right, and then Gaza is just there. It's not in a different part of the world. And then not knowing that this on such a big scale, these equipments and these trainings ongoing, it just doesn't sit right. Especially with intelligence agency like Mossad and their reputation, right? And such heavy missiles in the country had to be brought in from somewhere, right? And then equipments and all these tanks and all these motorcades and all these, it just doesn't sit right.
And what's Iraq's part in this? What's Jordan's part in this? What is Syria's part in this?
Lebanon's.
Right? Lebanon's part in this.
Yeah.
What is Saudi Arabia's part in this?
Hmm.
It's such a complicated issue, man. And we have also seen protests all over the world, like we've said, support for Palestinians, especially the civilians, right? So I don't know where this goes. I don't know what happens.
The other thing I wanted to talk about, and this is just tech involved, the Iron Dome system.
Oh,
That is impressive. That is impressive.
very, very impressive, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've spent about $1 billion for the Iron Dome, and it's, I think, worth it. I mean, because I read it somewhere, because it is from the day of its function, it has stopped about 2,100 missiles already.
Yeah, and this is before this war started.
Before this conflict. So, this savior of so many.
The conception of the idea of the Iron Dome was done in 2006, and by 2011 they had a functioning Iron Dome.
Yeah.
Right, and since then they've been used multiple times. Of course, this is not the first time that the Iron Dome has been used. So what we know is that, like, that's why the 2,100 number comes from, because over the years, in 2011 they had to use it, 2014, and again and again and again. So 2,100 and more missiles has been stopped, and the accuracy rate of the Iron Dome is plus 90%.
Exactly, so impressive. And what it does is basically it just tracks the incoming missile, and it just flies near, like goes near it, goes to the point, and then it just, in its proximity, it just explodes.
Yeah.
So it then exploding the other missile as well, and then reducing the damage significantly.
Yeah. And if it does not explode, so why is it just 90%? Why not 95% or 100%? The reason being is that it will see whether the missile that has been directed towards them is going to land on a civilian area or not. And if it's cleared the civilian area by a certain margin, then it will let the missile land.
So if the damage is a minimum, you'll just leave it, because it's not going to do anything.
Because artilleries become very precise during wars, right? Yeah. So that's the thing. And at one time, the Iron Dome can fit up to like 20 missiles in one.
Yeah, you'd have to reload it, I think. Yeah.
And then the other fun thing about the Iron Dome is it's movable. Right, you can take it to different locations.
Okay,
So that's the other thing that makes it much more convenient. But do you think any peace coming in then, Ashwal?
Any peace?
Yeah, in this region, or just this conflict?
Maybe a huge piece of war, but I don't think so. I don't think it's slowing down. It was just a spark that needed igniting.
Yeah.
Right, and I think it has ignited, and I think it's just going to burst into flames now. We just can wait and watch the casualties and all that. And the more not interesting, but then the bigger things at play will be the contribution of other countries to this war. And that will, I think, just ignite it even more.
So are we on the onset of World War III then?
Could be. Crisis in the Middle East, other countries involved, especially America and such. Could be.
But I think the last straw that's just left is China attacking Taiwan. And then I think, because it will be so, isolated events in Russia and Ukraine, all the way up north, and then in the Middle East, and then all the way up to the east, right? So once all these three things, I think if it happens, because China has been gearing up to attack Taiwan for ages, right? Because China believes Taiwan is their state, and then the world and US believe that Taiwan should be a secular state on its own, like a separate state on its own. It still does not have global identity as a country. So sometimes it will represent itself as Taipei or something like that and all that and all. But yeah.
Yeah, and then also not to forget that Israel is, I heard this somewhere and it just fits Israel's description, I guess. Israel is a juggernaut who can punch way above its weight. Even though they've been caught off guard and they are in questions and all that of security and intelligence and all that, or maybe that's just a conspiracy like we talked about. But we have seen that in history, Israel against 2 or 3, 4 countries, their neighbors essentially, and they still punch their way through and, just is Israel. So we will get into that. It's so interesting.
The 1948 event, basically.
The 1948 event,
right?
And then the 60s, the 70s, and even thousands of years ago, what caused, this very moment and this very conflict that's ongoing. What it actually is about, you'll have to wait and find out in the next video.
Yeah. So anything else you want to add? Any questions you have left?
No, just I think we got to wait and watch for some more information, and let's see where this heads out. Not looking good for me.
All right. All right. Okay, that's pretty much it on our end as well. I don't have anything else to add. We'll be covering this on our end, and if there's more things that we have to discuss, we'll do another episode on this. But for the next one, I think we are going to do the Israel and Palestine history and how this region has been in war for ages and ages.
Yeah.
Right?
So condolences goes out to all those
Yeah.
innocent civilians, no matter the side, innocent civilians.
And thankfully, the 10 Nepalese people that were captured, they are being brought back yesterday. I think that the plane flew for their...
Yeah, and sadly, even the dead bodies of those 10 people have been back, and the other ones who are alive are back. So that's good. That's sort of good news.
So, anyways, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace!